Back to the NC State Insider Podcast. I'm your host and lead beat writer, Tucker Sennett, joining you here today to discuss NC State's big bounce back win in Maui over Boise State, a quality recovery from this team after falling to Seton Hall in the first round. They bounced back with an 81 to 70 win over the Boise State Broncos. Again, a really, really solid bounce back win for the Wolfpack. A game that they really needed for a lot of reasons, just to make sure that this Maui trip wasn't a complete disaster. Obviously, not going to get a really high profile win that I think they might have been looking for in this tournament when they head down there. Um, but able to come away with a chance to play in that fifth place game against what will likely be a really tough Texas team. But I want to talk about this Boise State game because there was a lot to unpack. In that one. So let's dive into it. Darian Williams came out looking like a much more aggressive player. Came out and scored seven really quick points and finished the game with 16 before he fouled out. The turnovers are a little bit concerning with him. I'm noticing that he's struggling with these double teams and the way that teams are making him the focal point of the defense. He's never really had to deal with that before because he was really not the consistent number one option with Texas Tech because they had JT Toppin, they had Chance McMillan, they had a lot of really good options there that could kind of take the load off of one another. And NC State hasn't had that one guy that's been able to be consistent outside of Williams yet. Paul McNeil hasn't shot the ball particularly well over the last three games after that blistering start. And he was solid today, finished with 10 points, but they just need to find somebody who can kind of relieve the pressure on Williams so he doesn't feel like he's the only answer when this team really needs a bucket. The Boise State, is a really good rebounding team. Will Wade was concerned about that going into the game, and it certainly was an issue at times. Boise State out rebounded the Wolfpack by only two boards, so that was a win. But they did get seven offensive rebounds, or seven more offensive rebounds, so they had 14 to the Wolfpack's seven. So that's a problem. And that was going to be a problem going into the season. Will Wade talked about it. This is not a team that he had super high hopes for in that department, but maybe I think his hope was this team could figure out a way to rebound at least on the defensive end and not be a team that's going to go for a lot of offensive rebounds. And yeah, they haven't been an elite defensive rebounding team, which again, I don't think he expected, but I think he expected them to be able to avoid giving up 14 of them in the game. The turnovers were a massive improvement. They did turn it over 10 times, but part of that was just kind of the disjointed end of the game. And you had three players foul out, including Williams, a good ball handler, Holloman, your best ball handler, probably, and Copeland, your other best ball handler. So you lose your top three guards at the very end of the game. And Copeland kind of dealt with foul trouble most of the night. So that was certainly a problem for him. But when he was going downhill, he looked like a really, really uh, uh, he looked really motivated in this game. And I think the whole team looked much more motivated than it did against Seton Hall, especially on the defensive end. The energy was much better, held Boise State to 34% from the field, while NC State shot 50%, um, and made nine of its 21 three-point attempts. So 42% from the three, really solid there. Um, the main issue I have was this was really a game of runs, and that's kind of how it can be in Maui. If you watch the other games, like Arizona State tonight against Washington State, went down 10, comes back and wins by a bunch. So it happens. That's just, you got the soft rims. It's a unique venue. It's loud. There's a lot of just weird, frantic stuff going on in that building, and it can be a weird place to play. And that can create runs and just make games feel a little bit disjointed. And NC State, for the most part, didn't let itself get thrown by that like it did against Seton Hall. Seton Hall really tried to muck the game up and make things ugly. And NC State didn't get flustered by that from Boise and played much better. Um, After the game, the man of the match, so to speak, to use a soccer term, was Terrence Arsenault, who came off the bench, scored 11 points, had or three steals in the game. He had been dealing with this Achilles issue, hadn't played a ton of ball to this point, and came in today and really, really, did his job off the bench. He was that top defender. And after the game, Will Wade was asked about his performance and what it was like, and he revealed that he and Arsenault had a spirited discussion, was what he said, and that it was kind of go time for Arsenault, or else he was going to get sat out. I'm not going to use the same language that Will did, but I think it was sort of a heart to heart because, they paid a lot of money for Arsenault, and he hadn't really looked like a player that was going to be a valuable contributor. And today, he came out, he played really, really solid defense, obviously with the three steals, had 11 points, drilled a three-point attempt, his only one, and he looked like a good athletic option for this NC State team off the bench, maybe a player that gets shifted back into the starting lineup if he does that with consistency. But it's really promising that they have that go-to perimeter defensive option because that's not something that they've had in the first few games with him out. And, that was kind of going to be his job going into this season. And I think he proved that he could do that really well in this game. We'll see how the mindset is moving forward because clearly Wade had some issues with, how he was handling his injury process and that Achilles thing. And apparently everything's clear. And Wade was just frustrated with his you know, getting back into it. And now it's about doing that with consistency. So we'll see what happens with Arsenault moving forward. That's going to be certainly a guy that I'll be watching closely, and we'll see if he can continue to do what he did today with some serious consistency. Vanilla Lubin turned in another really nice performance, 11 points and 12 rebounds. That's double-double for him. Um, Got to fix the free throws if this team is going to be competitive because Ven missed three free throws today, a couple that weren't even close. So that's certainly something that's going to be important for him. But at times, it feels like he's really the only rebounding option on the floor, and these guards kind of get outworked. So they're going to have to figure out a way to, I don't know if it's a motivation thing or just get these guards working harder on the glass because, Williams is playing that four of sorts. And he's a solid rebounder, but not a strong enough rebounder to the point where he can take enough slack off of Lubin that Lubin can be that elite glass cleanup guy, even though he is a really solid rebounder. So they're going to need those guards to start working harder on the glass, taking initiative there and boxing out these defenders who fly in from or these offensive players who fly in from everywhere because they know they're bigger. And I think today was really rewarding for NC State because they saw what can happen, but they also saw that they can beat a team that can do that. And, Boise shot itself in the foot in a lot of ways. They missed 11 free throws. That's the margin of victory for NC State. So if they make a few more of those, this is a very different game down the stretch. Um, but NC State handled the points or the paints in the points in the paint. They did a much better job there. Scored 26 points in the paint today. Scored 20 on fast breaks, 24 off turnovers. Just a better effort in the kind of important underlying statistics. Maybe the best part of the game for NC State moving forward was that they got serious production off the bench. NC State scored 28 points off the bench between Arsenault's 11, Matt Abel's 9, Allen Breed with five, Musa Sanya with three. Just a lot of production coming from those guys. Abel was really, really good defensively today. Had five steals in the game. And didn't shoot the ball, I think, as well as he would have wanted. He only made one of his 3-point attempts, but he just looks like he's getting more comfortable every game out there. And I think, again, I've said this a few times, they're just trying to ease him into it. He's young, and come January and February, he's going to be one of the four or five most, one like the fourth or fifth most important player on this roster, just given how talented he is. So, games like this are really valuable for him. Alan Breed came in and really stabilized things in a couple spurts. So, really impressive performance by this NC State bench today. As for the next step, you got to beat Texas or Chaminade. My guess is it'll be Texas in that fifth place game. I don't think Chaminade will get there, but we'll see. Um, and NC State's going to have to be on point. Texas is a team that's loaded with guard talent. They got some interesting talent down low. So we'll see how NC State responds to an SEC team tomorrow. As always, thanks for tuning in to the NC State Insider Podcast. You can feel free to follow me on X at Senate Tucker. Go ahead and throw the website a follow on X at Wolfpack on SI. And of course, find daily episodes of the NC State Insider Podcast on the Sports Videos on SI YouTube channel. We'll see you next time for our last game recap from Maui. Later.